Shoute. How ChatGPT threatened Google's 200B search empire. For 25 years, Google search has been the undisputed king of the internet. When you had a question, you Googled it. When businesses wanted customers, they bought Google Ads. When anyone needed information, they turned to that familiar search box that processed over 8.5 billion queries every single day, generating more than $200 billion in annual revenue for Alphabet. Google's search monopoly seemed unbreakable, with a market share hovering around 92% globally. Then, on November 30, 2022, everything changed. A small research lab called OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public, and within 5 days, it had gained over 1 million users. Within 2 months, it reached 100 million monthly active users, making it the fastest-growing consumer application in history. For the first time since Google's rise to power, someone had built something that could fundamentally threaten the search giant's empire. This wasn't just another search engine trying to compete on Google's terms. This was something entirely different, something that could make the very concept of search obsolete. The warning signs appeared immediately. Microsoft, Google's longtime rival in search, had been quietly investing in OpenAI since 2019, eventually pouring over $13 billion into the partnership. When ChatGPT exploded onto the scene, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella saw his opportunity. In February 2023, Microsoft integrated ChatGPT's underlying technology into Bing, rebranding it as the new Bing, and positioning it as a conversational search experience. For the first time in years, people were actually talking about Bing. Microsoft's search market share, which had been stagnant at around 3% for nearly a decade, began to tick upward. More importantly, the integration demonstrated something terrifying for Google. Users preferred getting direct answers from an AI over clicking through a list of blue links. Instead of searching best restaurants in Chicago and scrolling through 10 website results, users could ask the AI for personalized recommendations and get immediate, conversational responses. The fundamental user behavior that had made Google $200 billion was beginning to shift. Google's initial response revealed just how blindsided the company had been. Despite having some of the world's leading AI researchers and having developed transformer technology that powered ChatGPT, Google had been sitting on its AI capabilities for years. The company had been too comfortable with its search dominance to risk cannibalizing its own business model. But ChatGPT's success forced their hand. In February 2023, Google hastily announced Bard, their own conversational AI assistant, during a live-streamed event. The demonstration was a disaster. Bard gave an incorrect answer about the James Webb Space Telescope, falsely claiming it took the first pictures of exoplanets outside our solar system. Google's stock price plummeted by over 8% in a single day, wiping out more than $100 billion in market value. The mistake wasn't just embarrassing. It highlighted Google's desperation and the rushed nature of their response to the ChatGPT threat. The real danger to Google's empire wasn't just about user experience. It was about the fundamental economics of information retrieval. Google's business model had always been elegant in its simplicity: show users free search results, then make money by displaying ads alongside those results. In 2022, Google's search advertising revenue reached $162.45 billion, representing nearly 60% of Alphabet's total revenue. But conversational AI threatened to collapse this entire ecosystem. When users asked ChatGPT a question, they received a direct answer without seeing any ads or clicking on any websites. There were no sponsored links, no shopping ads, no display banners. Even worse for Google, publishers and content creators who had spent decades optimizing their websites for Google's search algorithm suddenly found their traffic plummeting as users bypassed traditional search results entirely. If people stopped clicking on search results, the entire digital advertising ecosystem that Google had built would crumble. The competitive landscape shifted dramatically throughout 2023. OpenAI didn't stop with ChatGPT. They launched ChatGPT Plus for $20 per month, quickly amassing over 10 million paying subscribers and generating more than $2 billion in annualized revenue within their first year. But the real game changer came when they began integrating real-time web browsing capabilities into ChatGPT, directly competing with Google's core search functionality. Meanwhile, other tech giants smelled blood in the water. Amazon integrated conversational AI into Alexa, Apple began developing their own large language models, and even smaller companies like Perplexity AI raised hundreds of millions in funding to build answer engines that combined search with conversational AI. The startup ecosystem that had largely ignored search for 2 decades suddenly saw an opportunity to attack Google's most profitable business line. By late 2023, the threat had evolved beyond simple question and answer interactions. ChatGPT and its competitors began demonstrating capabilities that made them superior to traditional search for many use cases. Need to plan a vacation? Instead of searching for flights, hotels, and restaurants separately across multiple websites, users could have a single conversation with an AI that would handle the entire planning process. Writing a report? Rather than searching for sources and synthesizing information manually, the AI could research, analyze, and draft content in minutes. Coding a website? Developers found that ChatGPT could write, debug, and explain code more efficiently than searching through Stack Overflow and documentation sites. These weren't just incremental improvements, they represented fundamental shifts in how people accessed and processed information. Google's core value proposition of organizing the world's information and making it universally accessible was being rendered obsolete by AI that could not only find information, but also process, analyze, and apply it. Google's counteroffensive throughout 2024 revealed the depth of the company's concern. They restructured their entire organization around AI, combining their DeepMind and Google Brain research divisions into a single unit called Google DeepMind. They launched Gemini, a family of large language models designed to compete directly with OpenAI's GPT models, claiming superior performance across multiple benchmarks. Most significantly, they began the risky process of integrating AI directly into their core search product through AI Overviews, which provided conversational answers at the top of search results. This move was particularly dangerous for Google because it threatened to reduce clicks to external websites, potentially alienating publishers and advertisers who formed the foundation of their business model. The company was essentially being forced to cannibalize its own search advertising revenue to compete with ChatGPT, a classic innovator's dilemma that had destroyed countless industry leaders throughout business history. The market impact became undeniable by 2024. Despite Google's efforts to maintain its search dominance, cracks in their empire became visible across multiple metrics. Young users, in particular, began shifting their information-seeking behavior away from traditional search. Surveys showed that Gen Z users were increasingly likely to ask AI assistants questions rather than use Google search, especially for complex queries requiring analysis or synthesis. Enterprise adoption of conversational AI for internal search and knowledge management exploded, with companies like Microsoft reporting that their Copilot AI tools were being used billions of times per month across their Office suite. Even Google's own employees began using ChatGPT for coding and research tasks, according to internal reports that leaked to the press. The company that had built its fortune on being the gateway to information was watching users find new gateways that bypassed Google entirely. The implications extended far beyond Google's immediate financial performance. The entire SEO industry, worth an estimated $80 billion globally, faced an existential crisis as businesses questioned whether optimizing for Google's search algorithm made sense if users were increasingly getting answers from AI instead. Digital marketing agencies scrambled to understand how to reach customers in a world where AI assistants might filter and mediate all information access. Publishers saw their Google-driven traffic decline as AI tools provided direct answers without requiring users to visit their websites. The knock-on effects rippled through the entire digital economy, affecting everyone from small bloggers who depended on Google traffic to massive e-commerce companies that had built their customer acquisition strategies around Google Ads. What had started as a single AI chatbot had triggered a fundamental restructuring of how information flowed through the digital ecosystem. As we move through 2025, the battle for the future of information access continues to intensify. Google has not been defeated. They remain the dominant search engine with massive resources, an unparalleled data advantage, and decades of technical expertise. Their integration of AI into search has been more successful than their initial Bard launch, and they've managed to maintain most of their advertising revenue despite the changing landscape. However, the existential threat remains real. OpenAI's ChatGPT has proven that users prefer conversational, direct answers over traditional search results for many types of queries. Microsoft's integration of AI into their entire productivity suite has given them a platform to challenge Google's dominance beyond just search. Most importantly, user behavior is evolving in ways that could permanently reduce dependence on traditional search engines. The $200 billion search empire that Google built over 25 years faces its greatest challenge yet, and the outcome will determine not just Google's future, but the future of how humanity accesses and interacts with information itself. The age of typing keywords into a search box and clicking through blue links may be ending, replaced by an era of conversational AI that can understand, analyze, and respond to our questions as naturally as a human expert. Whether Google can successfully navigate this transition or becomes another cautionary tale of disruption will define the next chapter of the Internet's evolution.